in the back underneath the exit sign, those ages 5 through 9, and they will join us after the reading of the Gospel. Hear now the Gospel according to St. Luke.
Glory to you,
O Lord.
Now about 8 days after these sayings, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up on the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed and his clothes became as bright as a flash of lightning. Suddenly they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking about his exodus, which he was about to fulfill in Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep, but as they awoke, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus,
Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us set up 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah.
Not realizing what he was saying, while he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said,
This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him.
When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days told no one any of these things they had seen. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You might be seated. Yesterday, no, Friday evening, I returned home with plane, and if you're over there, anyone flew home at night, and if you make this turn to O'Hare, you cross through, it looks like you pass Willis Tower and you're almost close to them. If you sit on the left side of a plane, I never have the chance to have a window seat because I'm married and my wife is, but I'm tall, I can see through this, and I measured this a couple of times, and it looks awesome. Different point of view, crazy, weird, astonishing. And of course, also if you do skydiving or whatever kind of sports, or go to a high tower like Space Needle or whatever, or if you go to Willis to these weird glass balconies, it's kind of amazing, astonishing, terrifying, all at the same time. It's a kind of modern view. At this point, there was no planes and nothing. So on a mountaintop, it's a kind of comparable feeling. And of course, my wife is from the Alps. They like whatever, very high mountains and weird, terrifying mountains and skiing. So she has these views, but even on northern Bavaria is little mountains. They're also great. You don't see all over the place, but they're also great. And even here in Illinois, kind of flat, like a pancake, to the pancake breakfast. Thank you for this. But anyone been to Stafford? How's it called, at Illinois River? It's like 1 hour drive here on the I-80, Stafford Rock or Stafford Rock, or whatever it's called. It's great. Even this little rock, I don't know, it's maybe 10 minutes up. It's a great, astonishing view. So it's for these sides. And I have to say, I was privileged to be on this Mount Tabor, it's called. And I can tell you, anyone was there on Mount Tabor, where the story was today? No. I can tell you it's amazing, even if you have bad weather. And today it's easy. They have a little cap or whatever, goes up if you pay. I didn't use this because at this time I was younger, and went up. And there's a church and a chapel there. And if you're up there, I was lucky even too. There was a great view. I looked Mediterranean Sea, Golan Heights, countries, the Sea of Gennesaret, Lake of Galilee, even to Jerusalem, to Red Sea. I think you cannot see. It's just amazing. So I guess for this time, close to Nazareth, for the disciples, it's absolutely amazing. And then you have these clouds and these weird and astonishing things going on. Tabor, even before this point, for the Jews and all the people around, was always considered as a holy, spiritual place and mountain. And it was visible. It's visible if you go around, and it's very special. It has a special feeling around it. And if Peter say, Master, it's good that we are here. Peter said at this spot 2,000 years ago, and I imagine only this beautiful view around made him understandable. They liked it there. It's just astonishing. But if I see God's creation is unique out there and amazing, and they go up. And I mean, it's a little privilege for them. Only Peter goes up, not his brother Andrew, and John and James, the two brothers. So these three circles. So I think he's also a little bit, what will we get? Why we're only three apart? Maybe they have a little feeling. And then there is this, we call it transfiguration moment. We cannot fully understand. When I approached here, I double sense this. This is the ascending Jesus, but I look up and weird going on. We cannot fully understand it. The disciples cannot fully understand it. But at this point, they knew what's going on. Until this, I think 40 days ago on the sermon, I called it revolution. We had the healing and preaching of Jesus and his disciples going around. After we had Christmas, we had the Advent time, and now is the turning point. If you later see in the church here, it's the turning point from this healing to revealing the story. And this, what they call Exodus, in remembrance of Moses, Elijah. And then we hear a voice, you're the chosen one. So the disciples knew for this at the first time. Otherwise, they didn't know all the story with the cross and the fully story at this point. They've been up there, and I also like tenting, like camping. They want to build tents. And they didn't fully understand the figures they showed up. Moses and Elijah, why are these two? These two are hard laborers for the Lord and kind of not easy and not called full patriarchs like Abraham. Moses had a long work, not only dividing the sea and go through there, but it's 40 years going through the wilderness. People complain. Then he's been on the mountaintop, not on Mount Tabor. It was Mount Sinai, and received the 10 Commandments. But you can imagine, we know most about Gospels, even if you're not super reading the Bible all day. Most people know Jesus stories, called the Gospel. But at this point, the disciples, even if you're not able to write, you know the stories of Moses, and you know the stories of Elijah. Maybe Elijah, the prophet, you might not know, he served God very hard, where almost all, even the Jews, fell apart from God and from faith. So that's why these people are there. And we cannot fully understand it to this day. Did they see it also in white with lightning or in the clouds? Must be very confusing for them. And at the same point, they get the delivery, okay, this is God's chosen one. We are right. And there is also an exodus or whatever must happen. They know this. They don't know at this point all the suffering fully, and they don't want to know, I guess, all these experiences. And of course, if you're a mountaintop and all these clouds are going on, you're kind of scared. Yeah? It's high, don't have big shelter. So Peter is always protective. For the Transfiguration Day, it's the turning point. We enter Lent. Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. It's obvious. So there is this part for preparing, contemplating for the Easter. And for this Exodus, we hear it, but we know it's the sacrifice and it's the journey to the cross for us. If we visit the mountain today, that's when I look here again, come back to this. Today we have a modern church, and it was kind of rebuilt or redecorated by a modern architect. I don't have pictures here or a screen, but maybe I share the picture on Facebook side, but it doesn't look good on the picture. They have beautiful glass windows. If you want to walk up today, you have to pass this church. And then you have, it's a little bit here, but it's modern with a lot of light. And when the sun shines, it looks amazing. You cannot really see this on a picture or on a video. And this is, I want to say the name. It's Antonio Baluzzi. I'm not sure. I guess it's Italian, but it could be, I guess it's Italian. And he did this 90 years ago, and this is a really amazing entrance today to kind of try to make this transfiguration, and it works perfect if you have a sunny day. If you approach there, you kind of, the architecture with the pews, I cannot really explain, you're kind of invited to prayer. Even if you're just a tourist, not really Christian or whatever faith, you kind of do some prayers there. The ways how the pews are and the way you go through this. And that's, for me, also part 2. We focus on the prayers. Jesus walked around with the disciples, and there was healing and sermons or messages, lectures. And now we're going to be on these transfiguration points for Jesus and his disciples, but also for us. That's all the 3 readings, especially the Corinthians. And here in the Gospel, it's the way to transform for us now. And with these prayers, we kind of start to transform for ourselves. But in our daily lives, it's kind of hard to kind of be a perfect human from one on the other. And if you have the prayers, it's not only, we have a lot of prayers. It's regular prayers we have here. It's prayers before dinner or before lunch. It's kind of prayers if you need be grateful, or it's prayers if you want to help. But there's also be just singing can be prayer, or meditation, or if you be silent, you don't need a position. Or, we have the orants, we open. Sometimes we have more contemplative prayers, or these arms. But sometimes even being mad or crying or fleeing can be, or weeping can be a prayer, if you think this. And prayers is for us the key process. I have a little tan. You cannot go in the sun without getting a tan, or you cannot jump in the water without getting wet. That's my key for this part. We have the healing sermon teaching process, and now we have the transfiguration and transforming for ourselves through prayers. At this point, going in contemplation for Lent. And praying means encountering God, and this encountering, of course, transforms people. Even Jesus, prays again and again. he takes his disciples with him to pray. And we know, a little spoiler, but we know the story, they fell asleep just on Maundy Thursday before the crucifixion and all this torture. And this is very important for us, not be afraid to fail. Jesus knows and God knows we can only change and transform if we pray. But as his disciples, even after Peter, sometimes we fail, and that's good. But if we try seriously to change ourselves or other people or even the world, and even little small steps very quickly, we can do prayers. Open, together, alone, in ourselves, silent, and they don't have to be on a high liturgy text. They can be kids. That's okay. Because who helps us to resolve all the neighborhood disputes? And who gives us the strength to forgive? Or who helps us to overcome hurts, pains? Where do we put our frustrations and aggressions? Do we always have no choice but to take it out to others? Many things in life can only change and transform if we are taken into relationship with God in prayer, and we follow the disciples and Jesus' example for praying. Prayer is the power that transforms and makes us new. Let us make time and room for this in these little days before we transform and go on the steps to Easter on Wednesday. Amen.